After inflation came back higher than most were expecting, down came crashing the crypto and stock markets. But where is this trend going to go in the coming months? That's the question on my mind. Well, for today, we have Paul from Ethernity joining us, and we're going to look at price analysis on what the charts are looking like. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Rain. If you like money and you like crypto and you're looking for a seasoned investor's take on the crypto market, join the Rainmaker family. But do note, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. Paul is an investor, not just in crypto, but many of the markets out there. All right. A special shout out to our Patreon members. We do have a private Discord there. Patreon members get access to. Now make it rain on that like button and strap in for the show. Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here. It's a very volatile market at the moment, but I think we are beginning to see the beginning of the end of all this potential volatility. So there are signs that it could all be coming to an end, and we will see a nice upward trend in risk, but we're not quite there yet. So we'll go through what we're looking for, but as always, very interesting markets.
Yeah, it's been crazy. CPI came in high and Bitcoin like fell off a cliff, but still right back into the range it had been trading at. So
yeah, absolutely.
Deal.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. It's exactly what you're saying. The market is back into the range. I mean, it was testing the bottom of the range, and like as we were saying last week, I was concerned about how it was falling, and it didn't manage to catch a bid, and then we got this sharp move up ahead of the CPI, and then it dropped afterwards. So it's actually in a better position this week than it was last week, funnily enough, because we had this technical pattern that's normally a continuation, and it didn't continue. It did continue to the downside, but it didn't break the all-time low or the 2020 low, 2022 low, I should say. So low of this year. So that June low is extremely important, and it obviously, if it breaks a level like that, you can't be bullish the market. But I've been holding I've been trying to hold a bullish view, but noting that Bitcoin isn't the one to be in. So Ethereum's been the one leading the way, and that has been playing out quite nicely and still is. Bitcoin has been underperforming and testing the downside, but at some point I think it will synchronize to the upside. It's just a question of when the US dollar has topped out and when we see the yield markets moving down. So yields are moving up at the moment, but it's if I give you the 10-year yields, 10-year yields are heading back towards the previous high, may even break through that previous high. But given the CPI number, to put all of this into context, the markets haven't broken through these significant levels. So if the market was really, really bearish, Bitcoin would have broken its 2022 low. This would have broken through the high. We can also look at the S&P. Yes, there was a very sharp move to the downside, but we're back on this trend line. It's not like it's trading into new lows again, which it might do. It might. The market's still under pressure, and September can be quite a volatile month, and investors can get a bit worried because some crashes have happened in September, October. So it's always a bit nervy around this time. But given the CPI number, like you say, it was hotter than expected, and we're not crashing into new lows. We're just trading along this trend line. So it doesn't really fit the picture of massive inflation, which I think will come, but I don't think we're at that point yet, especially in the US. So I'm still going to stick with my view that we're close to the end of this dollar move, and this is the key to everything. As soon as the dollar turns, then I think all the cryptocurrencies will start to get bid up, and we'll see a big risk on phase. But we might not be there yet. But what I also like about this, just to close off the kind of macro questions, unless you obviously have some more that you want to ask, even though that CPI number was so very, very strong, you can see that it hasn't broken into the high that we've already seen. It's already gone into this high over 110, and it came down. Nice little correction. Yes, it shot up on the number, but usually the knee-jerk reaction on a number, you'd be very wary of that. I don't like knee-jerk reactions in the direction of a trend. I would be more inclined to say what the market panics into is normally the wrong view. So it panics in, and then we'll see in the next few days and this week whether they really truly believe this trade, because it could slowly start to fizzle out. This might even turn into a reversal pattern of some kind, a little head and shoulders pattern. A bit early yet. I haven't got a lot of evidence of that, but that's possible. And if that breaks this, well, if it then breaks this trend line, which I think it will do in this final quarter, it's just a question whether it's going to do it now, then again, risk on will come into the market generally. So we're not in a terrible position, but the sentiment makes it feel like we are. And just one final thing, if I could just, sorry, I know I said that was the final thing, but if I could just
No worries.
if I could just put the chart of Ethereum up, we still haven't broken back below this 1280 breakout level. So that is, to me, an indication that the market is still looking to take some risk and sort of press against this overall bearish story of risk off. So yes, it's a mixed bag, absolutely, for sure. You've also got Meta going down, which is breaking new lows, which I don't like, because I think it's more aligned to the crypto space now, given the multiverse, or the metaverse, I should say. So given the metaverse, I would have thought it would possibly trade in more aligned to some cryptocurrencies than some of the other markets. But then you've got other technology stocks like Apple and Tesla that are doing very well. So it really is a mixed bag. It's not clear that everything's definitely going down. And when sentiment is very, very bearish in the way it is, I think you've got to look at, when sentiment is bearish, just be more cautious. That contrary view that we've always talked about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going against the general sentiment. Yeah, I think there's some exciting times ahead, and we're looking at, still some continuation. This trend has been generally downwards, but I feel like so for those that haven't followed what risk on and risk off means, risk on assets mean they're willing to put into riskier assets such as stocks and even crypto. Risk off means they want to pull their risk off the table and they want to put it into something like the US dollar. And we've seen that crazy rise over the last 6 to 8 months in the US dollar. And that's because a lot of companies, Wall Street and big institutional investors, have been going risk off. And so that pulls money out of the markets into something like the dollar. And they want to be more stable, right? And not only from other like stocks and crypto, but from other currencies even into the US dollar, which they see as less risky than many of the other currencies. But as they start to feel like it's a risk on environment, then they start deploying that capital out into other things. And that's possibly when we see some money coming back into crypto, because that's what it takes, is money coming in and fresh money coming in for general prices to start rising again. Now, sometimes as money comes in, that creates some FOMO and even more money comes in. That's what I'm hoping for, but we'll have to watch the signals as they happen to see if we get kind of a parabolic move at some point, which really is the time periods that I like to buy when it's low like this, and I like to sell when it goes crazy like that. Looking forward to that. Do you mind if we take a look at the Bitcoin chart?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So so as we were saying, that if I just put this on a log scale, we take a step back and look at what's been going on since this June low. Well, not really a whole lot. And the market has been in a range. Now, a range is a basing pattern, or can be a basing pattern. The longer the base goes on for, the bigger the base that is being formed. As long as it doesn't take this low out, it's typical of a base. Bases are very annoying. You get like short-term breakouts that then fail, and then it comes back down again, and it sits in the range, and it can be for months, and then it takes off. And that's why you've got to be there to wait for that point when it does take off. and also to look for the main trigger level. So the main trigger level now for this would be a break of this high, which is also so very close to this previous low, which support and resistance reverse their roles. Because it's so close, we may as well use this higher resistance point to be a bit more cautious. So if it breaks this 25,400 level, well, you might say, well, why don't I buy it at 20,000, which is 5,000 points lower? Yeah, you can buy anywhere you want, but at this point, it's still in this range. It's still trading around this consolidation. So we need it to break through here to confirm that it's in a longer term bullish trend, which will then potentially take us much higher, much higher to like 30,000 and then perhaps even more. So we can talk about those levels if and when they occur. But the point is, whilst ranges are frustrating, they are potentially building something for you. They are building a base. As I say, the caveat is that you don't want it to take out the low, because if it does, then it means that this is all going to continue to the next phase. And I believe even if the market does that, the dollar will be in a position by then where it should start to weaken. So we'd be looking at that as possible buying opportunities. So at the moment, with Bitcoin, it's a kind of sit on your hands and wait until we get a bit more evidence that it's starting to move higher and move higher more consistently and in line with Ethereum and not lagging Ethereum. But as we were saying before, Ethereum still is outperforming, even though this announcement's occurred. I'm guessing obviously you know more about the technicalities behind that and how long it would take for the proof of stake sort of handover to work to be done. But once that's done, and it's all fully integrated and working fine, then we'll see what hopefully that's what's underpinning the market at the moment, and hopefully Bitcoin will get a chance to catch up, as will the interest in the altcoins.
Yeah. For those that weren't around the last bear market, it played out a lot like this, and it just seems kind of slow, and you're waiting for these things to happen. This is where patience comes in. And for those that are patient, that's where the major gains go over time. That patience is key. Do you mind, Paul, if we look at Cardano, and Cardano has a major upgrade happening to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So just wanted to take a look at the price action.
Sure. Now, Cardano is in this descending triangle pattern that I'm pretty sure we spoke about this last week, possibly the week before as well. But this is a descending triangle pattern. And if we draw a line across here, let me just show you. Each of these highs keeps getting lower. I'll just use a different color as well, just so you can see it a bit clearer. Where's it gone? Seems to have disappeared off the screen. Right. Well, hopefully you can see this dotted line clearly. But either way, these two dots actually mark out where the resistance points are. So this line is showing that every time the market rallies, it kind of fails at a slightly lower rate, which is not a good sign. You've got the lows that are coming in relatively flat. I know it's ascending slightly, but that's close enough for them to be close together for it to be considered a descending triangle. So if the market breaks through this low, it would normally continue quite aggressively to the downside. So I'm a bit concerned while it's in this consolidation phase. Now, one positive on this is some of the markets that have created this sort of pattern have unusually broken out, but not broken the downside, broken the upside. I mean, we are waiting for either the resistance line to break or the support line to break to give us the next directional trade. Given that the downside has been dominant, that's why it's slightly biased to the downside. But it doesn't mean it's definitely the downside. It just means that in everything we do in technicals, you have a probability, and that increases the probability to the downside. But if it doesn't break this low and breaks this resistance line, it's quite within the technicals to reverse your view and go long. So we really need this line to break in order for it to be bullish. As you can see, the moving averages have been, the main ones have been downwards, and we've seen the short-term moving averages just starting to flatten out. So the rate of decline has slowed, which is good, but it's still not out of the woods here as yet. So
And
if there, if
probabilities on a descending triangle like that is much higher that it breaks further to the downside, correct? Like 60 or 66%?
yeah, it would be over 60%, depending on the environment, perhaps even higher. So if everything else was falling, what's really interesting sometimes is you might see another market break down and this market being delayed, and then it breaks down. So, but we're not really seeing that going on at the moment. So, so that's when you can increase the probabilities to say 70-75%. But on its own, 60-40 is probably the best odds that you're going to get. And anything that's above 50-50 in the market is very good, because if you think about it, if every trade you take has a slightly increased odds on your favor, then the more trades you take with good risk management, the more successful over time you should be. So it's a decent a percentage amount for it to be worth looking at. But so at the moment, unfortunately, it's still within this this downward trend, this blue line that we've had on for a long time. For it to do a major turnaround, it needs to really break that. But the first sign of it would be breaking the resistance of this descending triangle, to tell us that something interesting is going on. So what I like about this is I don't know about the fundamentals, so you're telling me that something's going to happen, and I can't see anything at the moment in the price action, but that makes me want to watch this resistance line even closer, because if there is an announcement, I want to see how it will react and whether it will get through this resistance point and start a new trend.
Yeah, I can't say I would be too disappointed if it broke down further and Cardano's price went even cheaper. This is one that I held a lot. I bought during the last bear market, and it topped out at about $3.40. It's now 85% retraced from there. And if it got a little bit cheaper, that would be fine by me. I do believe in Cardano for the long run a lot. I think they have one of the better ETH killers, third generation blockchains. If you consider Bitcoin is the first generation blockchain, ETH is the second generation of blockchain. Cardano would be in line with the third generation. Cardano, Polkadot, Avalanche, Phantom, all these are different third generation blockchains that are, increased scalability over what ETH can do. And so Cardano's kind of leading that pack and has been for a while now. There's been a lot of ones trying to compete with it, like Solana. And Cardano, even though they took a very slow, methodical approach to building it, the success of it's been good. It was frustrating for a while because it took so long for it to even roll out. I think they did their initial fundraising in like 2015, 2016. And so by 2019, I think they rolled out their test net and their main net not too long after that. Maybe it's 2020. And so the development processes seem slow, but the founder went about it. If you've ever taken programming classes, they tell you to architect out your program before you even write a line of code. And most crypto projects don't do that. Cardano not only did that, but took that to the extreme that they wrote all the proofs and all these different ways it would work and did all the design before they even programmed a line of code, which can make the process seem like it's going so slow. But as that foundation is built really strong, then they can add on to it faster and faster. And then over time, it just seems like things are added so fast because they don't have to fix broken stuff all the time.
That's really interesting. It's really interesting. And I can understand that investors are going to be very frustrated with this because it's gone down, and it's been stuck in a range for ages, isn't it? I mean, it's been since May that it had its low. So it's actually ahead of the market. It rallied ahead of the market, and then it's just gone sideways. So that's another facet about these patterns, you know that investors are just going to take their eye off the ball and not look at it because there's not much volatility. It's not going anywhere. And that's why, you have to keep an eye on it, because at some point it will trend, it will break out. It might not be tomorrow, but it's getting closer. And when it does, it usually wrong foots people. So yeah, and the longer it goes on in this range, the more chance of it going up, because if it wanted to go down, it's had the environment to go down, if that makes sense. Sentiment has been bearish, and there has been a risk-off environment, which may even extend further, yet it stayed in a range. So it's almost like, well, if it's going to go down, why hasn't it gone by now? It should have gone. So wait and see, really. But trading and investing is all about psychology, and the more you're in the game of it, the more you see that. And you can just work out by looking at the chart how investors are going to be feeling. Obviously, it's a bit frustrated, and those are the periods that you go through, unfortunately.
Yeah, let's take a look at some viewer picks. Now, if you're watching this and you want to suggest some altcoins that you want us to review next week, go ahead and put them in the comments section below, up to 2 of them. Particularly helpful if you tell us what you like about the project. So the first one we're going to look at is UFO Gaming.
Yeah, UFO. Okay. UFO Gaming. Right, let's see if this is okay. Right, so we've got UFO Gaming. Let's try it on this.
That looks right.
This looks right, doesn't it? Okay. This looks right. So here we go. We've had a really big downward trend here, then a rounding bottom, as we've said before, and I know you've said that a few times as well. So we had a really nice breakout. So I would say this is the beginning of what we would describe as a new trend. So this is what we want Bitcoin and some other markets to do, is break out, start a new trend. It's retraced, which is fine. That's fine. I mean, it's still way above the low, and it's consolidating. So now it needs to begin a new trend to the upside. So we're waiting for this next breakout phase to tell us that this is starting a new impulsive, what we would describe as an impulsive trend. If this support can hold here, which is around, well, you can look at the numbers, 23,400 with lots of zeros in front of it. If it can hold around here and then start to take out this resistance, then it would tell us that we're moving potentially into a new bullish phase. But I like the way it's been impulsive, and this is an impulsive move which tells us that the market is starting a new trend. This is a corrective move which tells us that the market is pulling back against that trend, but it should get ready for another upward trend again. So and hopefully it will be reversing this big trend to the downside. So there's plenty of room for it to go higher. Now, where the big resistance is obviously here. You can see support here, resistance at, what's that, 5 zeros and a 6. So here, that's really the big long-term level it needs to take out to confirm that it's going to go much higher. But for the moment, tentatively, as long as it can hold over this support, which it is doing, at I'm just going to use the numbers without the zeros, the 23,100 level. As long as it can hold over there, I think it's in with a shout to move higher. So I like it. I'd say it's a buy.
Yeah, this one is interesting. So for you, that's a buy at this point. Just taking a look a little bit at the fundamentals. Let me share some numbers. Interesting that this project, if we go max timeline on CoinGecko, it's showing that the token was tradable in June of 2021. So really gone live a little over a year ago. And what's interesting is it appears that all their tokens are already in circulation, 100% of them. That takes the market cap. That means there's no difference between the market cap and the fully diluted market cap. I like that all the tokens are in circulation. That's a relatively high market cap for a gaming project at this point. Going to the website, I was looking through it. It's a top level website. I was reading a little bit more about what you can do with the tokens. Interestingly enough, if you stake their tokens, it looks like you can earn plasma points. The plasma points can then mint rare NFTs, and there will be a limited number of them. You do need the NFTs in order to play their game Super Galactic, which I have not seen how good the game is. One of the things I like to take a look at is who the partners are, and it says Kucoin. They are listed on Kucoin, so I don't know if this partnership is just that they're listed on them or if Kucoin is a backer. Obviously, it's a lot stronger case if Kucoin is a backer. My guess is that might not be the case. Chainlink, they might just be using Chainlink's price oracles. Polygon, Gate.io. So I do want to look at what markets they're on. So they're on Gate.io. So most likely they're calling these partners, even though they're just listed on the exchanges. Price looks interesting, though. I like that chart. I like this, and it's coming to a higher low, or appears to be at a higher low. So for me, I'm very tempted to buy. I'm thinking about this one. I'm gonna say wait, although that might easily flip to a buy for me. It's right on that point. I like where it is in the chart.
But you're saying that the market cap's quite expensive for a game then?
Well, it's expensive for this point in the market, though it's not that it couldn't go 100x from here. It could. I mean, $63 million market cap, if it were to go to a $6.3 billion market cap, which seems like so far away right now. But as money comes into the market, a lot of your top gaming projects will go to market caps that are in the billions of dollars. Is this going to be one of them? It could. I mean, that means that there's a lot of belief behind this game for this market cap to be so high in this environment. So let me just check out. Sometimes the numbers are different on CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. Let's just see. They're also confirming that all the tokens are in the market. So, yeah, I mean, that chart looks like at a minimum, it's at least following the lower line of the trend, which means it might even be a short. It means it's likely to come back up, and even a short-term swing trade or a longer-term hold for gains.
I mean, I could see why you'd want to wait as well, because it's sort of consolidating. It has been, since sort of the end of August. So it needs to ready itself for the next move, which it's not quite doing yet. So
yeah, it's close to that point. And it might just be in a couple of weeks that it's clear that it's going just sideways and then starting to tick up. But it's not a bad point to buy. I just wish fundamentally I knew a little bit more. The one who suggested this, our viewer who suggested, didn't put any details in there. And often the viewers that make these suggestions, they know all about these projects. And it's hard because there's 18,000 of them. I can't keep really good tabs on more than 40 or 50 or 60 at a time.
So that sounds like a lot in itself.
I know it is. It's a full-time job. And so there's lots of great projects that just because they're not one that I'm tracking very closely, that doesn't mean they don't have amazing fundamental things behind them. So whoever suggested this, we'd love to hear more from you in the comments below on UFO, more on the fundamentals and what's going on with this one.
Had you heard of it before? Because I thought I'd heard of it, but it would only be through you.
It's been quite a while.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, but quite a while ago, the chart looked bad, so we probably both said nope before, but the chart is looking pretty good. I like to see. It looks like maybe a double bottom, or what I call a W, forming there on the second leg of the W. All right, let's take a look at the next one, which is Altura.
Altura. So I am going to try. I'm going to go straight to Coin Paprika just because. No, that's not it. Altura. Let's try here. Okay, that's definitely looks much better than the chart we just saw there from May when it was crashing. So that's where that was the chart that just sort of popped up from before, but its history was not extended to where we are now. So this is kind of similar to the overall Bitcoin chart in the sense that the trend has been down and it's been going sideways really since May, and we're still waiting for a breakout. So we're kind of right in the middle of that range. I like the fact that it's trended up nicely here. It didn't extend, it didn't accelerate, but to be fair, not much has. So it would be unreasonable to expect this to be off to the races and when nothing else is. So pullback is fine, but it's gone back into its range. And it's like, well, what do we do here? It's so neutral. You could make an argument quite easily on both sides. You could say, well, look, it's bearish because the trend is down from here, but it's bullish because the market is off its lows. So I'd have to wait, but it's not looking like there's no very clear technical pattern to say sell at this point. Like there's no descending triangle pattern, which makes all the lows align and line up in a row. So it's very clean when it breaks down. So this trend line actually comes in quite nicely, so that we could use that as a buy point if it can break through that. If it gets through this trend line, then we'll be looking at a move towards about 4.5 cents. But it has to do that. So for the moment, I think it's a wait and see.
Okay. So, Paul, that's a wait. Let me share a little bit of fundamentals on this. So CoinGecko, we're looking at first the market cap. It's sitting just over 10 million, and circulating supply looks like 62% of its supply is in circulation, which is pretty good. It also launched in early 2021, but it didn't have that really big boom back then. Its big boom came in October and November with the metaverse announcement. Now, Altura is, according to them, powering the future of gaming. Altura makes it possible to integrate blockchain-based assets in your applications without the need for any Web3 knowledge. So it sounds like a narrative that could do well. Introducing the future of NFTs, smart NFTs. Imagine a video game sword that gets stronger every time it's used to slay a monster. This is where NFTs need to go for gaming. Smart NFTs have properties that can change based on certain conditions. Nice. Interesting. Starts to go into building a smart NFT. I like it. Good narrative. I do prefer to see the actual pictures rather than emojis or whatever of the team. But looks like Coin market cap has pretty much about the same numbers, so there's not a difference there. Yeah, these charts are looking pretty bullish with like a reversal pattern. Your chart clearly shows it a little bit better than mine, that possibly it's going to form like a double bottom or a W, and then we might be off to the races. So this one looks pretty interesting to me too. Both of these are right between a buy or a wait for me. They're both really close, and very, very interesting ones. I do see these market caps around the $10 million range, or even the one at $60 million. That seems like a lot for the market that we're in. But when money comes into the market, that's nothing. And you see those market caps, sometimes 10x, sometimes 30x or 50x. And it's not uncommon for tons of projects to have market caps in the billions of dollars. And that's what's exciting to me about these altcoins is, say you have a project that you're invested in, it goes from a $10 million market cap to a $600 million market cap, and that's a 60x. So that's why I love these altcoins. Of course, I use diversification to hedge my risk, because same time these projects could fail within your holding timeline. So all right, let's jump over to the next one. Wasp.
Right. So Wasp. Right. Wasp US dollar. Is that? No, that can't be it. Unless it's brand. No, that's not it. No, that can't be it.
It's maybe going to be a little bit hard for you to find that way. Let's see.
So it's not. Is it? There's only one Wasp here. There's one swap.
Yeah, it's from OneSwap.
Okay, right. Then there we go. So that's So this is one swap. Yeah, well, that's not an up-to-date price. So let's have a look. See if we've got it on Coin Paprika. Nope, that's definitely not right. So one swap. Sorry. The first one is to the 12th of September. So there's a couple of days missing, which obviously I don't like the sound of that, because I don't know why it's come off. I can have a look on. Let's have a look here and see if we can find it on View. Oh, it's not there either. So if you know where it might be, we could get an up-to-date price, say on CoinGecko, and then if it's close enough to where it is now, I'll just analyze this chart without the couple of days.
Yeah. I don't know where this would be other than, there we go, Wasp. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah. Here we go. So Max. Yeah, I don't like using this chart for obvious reasons. Because it's not as easy to explain what's going on with it. So what's it? Right, we want Max, don't we? So Max, logarithmic, and we would like a bar or a candle chart, please. So yeah, we're not getting very much here, other than, why won't it give me a log chart? Is that a log chart? Yeah, it should be. So there's not much data when we put Max in on a candlestick chart. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sorry, but this is well, look, I mean, it's difficult to read this chart. The reason why I'm saying this is because this trend has been negative until the 13th of June, and then it's gone sideways. But so has some of the other markets that have then turned around and gone up. So I don't know whether this is forming a base because it's so compressed, or whether it's getting ready for a move to the downside. It's because it's being presented. Sorry, let me just go back. There we go. It's because it's being presented in such a compressed fashion. So if this is the up-to-date price or close to it, which it seems to be, I think you're still going to have to wait here for various reasons. One is I'm not happy with the fact that this has suddenly stopped updating. So I don't know why that is. That could just be a technical error, or it could be something else. But this is a fairly dominant downward trend. And at the very least, the thing that you could say in its favor is it's been stuck in a quite tight range since the middle of June. So is it going to suddenly break out right now? Because I'm looking at it, it's unlikely. So I'd have to say at the very least it's a wait. And where I think it would be interesting from a basing point of view, if it can get through this 0.5 cent level. So if it gets through here, that would take it out the most recent range, and it would take out resistance, and it would look like a double bottom, a W pattern that it could then build on. So I'd be willing to have a go at it if it took that level out. But at the moment, it's still kind of stuck in this ranging price action that is very difficult to read on here, and it doesn't look like it's imminently from this chart ready to break out to the upside. So it's definitely a wait from me.
Yeah, let me give some fundamentals on this. So I've been using the Wasp token for quite a while. I earn it through this site called Zookeeper. It's zookeeper.finance, and then you go to the app and it can connect to your MetaMask, and you can connect to the one chain network. And so good year and a half ago now, was it a year and a half ago? So DeFi itself hasn't done all that well, and OneSwap is well within the DeFi network, and it's on the one chain, and so I'm bullish on one chain, and I'm bullish on DeFi, and so I have a bunch of one chain as well as some Wasp, and I have them staked, providing some liquidity on Zookeeper, and Zookeeper pairs with this site called OneSwap, which sister company. Anyway, so OneSwap is a lot like Uniswap, where you can trade and you can provide liquidity, and in return you'll earn some Wasp and some Zoo tokens. So I'm providing a bunch of liquidity. I earn Zoo tokens and Wasp tokens every day. Obviously on this computer I don't have it connected to where I hold all of that, so you're not seeing any of this data populated, but I earn Wasp tokens, which this is the symbol for, and this is symbol for one chain. So if I were to provide some Wasp tokens and some one chain on OneSwap and provide the liquidity, then I can then stake the liquidity tokens that I get for providing that liquidity, and I earn some. In this case, I think this one really only pays out Wasp, and some of these other ones pay out Zoo, and a few of them pay out both. And so through this site, good suggestion. I'm really bullish on the future of OneChain. Their team continues to work super hard. They are a strategic partner of the channel. It's an investment that I've followed for, goodness, the last actually 4.5 years. I've been invested in them the last 2.5 years. And I feel like they're building the best cross-chain bridge technology. And so OneSwap and Zookeeper are the best. OneSwap is the best decentralized exchange on OneChain, and Zookeeper is related to that as a way to provide some liquidity and get some Wasp and some Zoo tokens. So as for buying the Wasp tokens, I bought some when I initially I converted half my OneChain over to Wasp tokens, and so that I could stake and provide some liquidity, which then gets me yield on a daily basis, which I like. And that yield ends up, I probably have about $20,000 right now in present value on Zookeeper, and it seems to get me about $500 in liquidity like every 3 weeks. So really not bad. And that could change if the Wasp token goes way up. Then boy, not only will how much I have in value and liquidity, that number will go up, but also the yield that I'm getting every 3 weeks, or the value of that yield, go up. So there are some videos in the history, if you go to the history of it, where I cover Zookeeper and this a lot more in depth. This is one that I do follow and know the fundamentals on. As for buying it, I haven't done a lot of buying it other than that initial, because I earn so much as reward tokens every month. So I do have a ton of this. Whether I'm buying more, I'm not buying more, but that's only because I earn so much through providing liquidity. All right, great suggestion. Let's take a look at our next one, which is ERN.
Yeah.
Which is Ethernity Chain.
Okay. Ethernity Chain. Yeah. Okay. So ERN. That's yeah, that looks about right. Okay. So wow. Right. So look at this fantastic inverse head and shoulders pattern, which it just failed to trigger at $2.50, which is a real shame, because that would have looked almost perfect. So it's a failed inverse head and shoulders. I don't know if you can see that. It's probably one of the clearer ones that we've come across. But it just goes to show, even if the pattern looks really good, it doesn't necessarily mean it's definitely going to trigger. So here we have the neckline. So what is a head and shoulders reversal pattern? it's a trend reversing signal. So you have a downward trend, the market makes a low, rallies to resistance, makes another low, which is a new low. So at this point, there's no sign of it reversing. Then it comes back up again, rallies close to where the previous resistance was, which is what it's done here, then dips in again, because there's obviously the sellers who got buyers who got caught here who look to sell, take their profit. And then it rallies again. And then if it can get through these two resistance points, then the trend should extend to the upside. And that's where we would get excited about it from a technical point of view, a break of this line. So it really needs a break of this line to go bullish, but some people buy ahead of it, and there's a greater risk of it failing if you buy ahead of it. If you buy it on the breakout, it's harder to get in at a good level because the market can be moving really fast. So it's almost like you got to decide whether you prefer to risk it not working or chasing the market high, whichever your preference is. Now, this seems to be one where, unfortunately, it hasn't broken out and it's gone back into its support zone. So there's a few markets that are looking fairly similar like that, where they've tried to rally and they failed and they've come back again and they're in the middle of their range. Now, what can happen with patterns like this, and I've said before about these markets, is they can go from one reversal size into a size up. So what that means is the reversal pattern goes from an inverse head and shoulders, which is a relatively small pattern, into a bigger double bottom pattern, and that means that there's more upside potential, because the size of the reversal pattern indicates how far the market's going to go. If it's a small pattern, it'll be a small move. If it's a large pattern, it'll be a large move. So the fact that these small moves fail, whilst they're really frustrating, it can mean that we're just building up potential for the future. So where it is now, it's going to have to be a wait. But it's what I like about this, and I'm going to really keep an eye on it, is that this trades, you can see that it trades really nicely from a technical point of view. Remember the descending triangle pattern that I was talking about? I mean, this is a perfect example of it. So some markets don't trade quite within the textbook examples of the technical patterns, and some do, and this seems to be within the textbooks. So this is a descending triangle. When it breaks the low, it should just move down really fast, which is what it did. It formed a perfect inverse head and shoulders, which didn't break out, which there's no guarantee 100% that it can do that, that it will. Everything's probability, that we've said before, and you have to look at the markets from that point of view. But it could still be making a larger basing pattern. So I think it's worth keeping an eye on this for sure, for a larger base. But for me, without knowing anything about the project, it's a wait. But it's a really good one. So thanks for showing it.
Yeah, great suggestion by one of the viewers. A number of them are showing kind of this W pattern, which you can see on your screen, kind of playing out where that second part of the W doesn't go as low, and it puts in a double bottom. And it looks like that might be what's happening here, which is usually a trend reversal sign. And hopefully it plays out that way, as you showed with the inverse head and shoulders. Just because the chart is looking like it's going to probably play out a certain way, it doesn't mean it won't. It will. It doesn't mean it will play out that way. And the reason is there are macro factors that affect all these things. And so the whole market could swing in an unexpected direction, and everything within that market likely go with that new trend. Exciting. Let me show some fundamentals of this one. I like where the price is at. This is right between a buy and a wait for me as well. I do like to often get in on that second part of the W, and it looks like that's how it's going to play out. Let me share this. Let's look at some fundamentals on it. $25 million market cap. It's clearly been a lot higher than that, though. Back when it hit over $60, the amount of tokens in supply were a lot less. I imagine most of the pre-sale tokens have now been vested. In fact, half of the overall tokens have now been vested and are out there in the market. Probably there's some team tokens and ecosystem tokens that they have, or reserves for marketing, that slowly they get dispersed to them, that they could then put into there. Okay, so it looks like this gives us a breakdown of how much of that supply is in circulation already. Yeah, let me show you their site and why they're doing even this well during a bear market. That's because they've been getting some of the best NFT licenses for licensed collectibles. Now, what's interesting about NFTs is think about this side of NFTs as the collectible side of NFTs. And it's kind of hard to say in the future which ones people will want the most. But they have got some of the best licenses out there. They have a Pele NFT, which we all know Pele is one of the best football, or what Americans will call soccer, players in the whole world. They also had some other really big licenses, and it looks like they moved into entertainment, but they had Messi, which was a really big deal when they got Messi and making NFTs for Messi. So often some of the first of a certain person do the best. And so I think they were the first to produce a Messi NFT and several Messi NFTs. They did some Shaquille O'Neal NFTs, all big names. It looks like they've gone after individual players from the past, like Dan Marino and some other ones. So yeah, I mean, look how cool this NFT is. This one, wow, they're asking, ooh, the lowest ask, there's only 75 of these, but look how amazing this NFT is. That is cool. And I imagine this one might do well in the coming 50 years. That is remarkable. So great job by Ethernity. I mean, really cool NFTs. I'm working with a project that's working on creating showrooms that you can show NFTs on, Polygon, Immutable X's blockchain, as well as like ETH blockchain. You could put all these in a showroom. Gosh, these NFTs would be incredible in some kind of showroom. Oh, it's not showing us this Pele one. I mean, look how cool this Pele one looks. Where did that go? These are top level. I haven't looked in a while. So look how amazing these are. Anderson Silva, one of the top MMA people. These are just absolutely incredible. So yeah, thank you for the suggestion. I hadn't looked at their NFTs, and they definitely stepped it up to even a higher level. And gosh, these ones are absolutely crazy. Really, really cool. Charts. I mean, it looks pretty good, actually, on the second part of that low, this bigger W pattern, that maybe it's setting up for like much of the market for a run. I believe a lot of these ones we looked at, you're seeing this setup for that, because imagine it plays out this way, and we don't know for sure it will, but imagine in the coming month and a half, all of a sudden this dollar starts falling, and a lot of these big institutions that have been going risk off, they start putting their money back into the market because they're ready to take risk again. So say some of their money comes back into Bitcoin, it comes back into stocks, but a lot of that money in Bitcoin then starts to filter throughout the whole market, and it kind of raises the tide, and all the boats in the tide raise generally. That doesn't mean something can't go down during that time. It means generally things are going up, and that is a fun place to be. And during that time, certain things really take off and run really, really hard. And that's where price analysis can really come in. You can see in the charts what's setting up for a pretty good situation. But that is an exciting time to be, because that general tide rising all boats really affect your portfolio. Well, thank you, Paul. You wanted to take a look at Luna, which is interesting. Luna is such an interesting project, from like its rise and its utter devastating fall, and then some weird stuff that's been going on.
Yeah. I've tried to to be honest, I sort of popped the chart on very quickly, I think a couple of weeks ago. But then I took it off knowing that it was kind of a heartbreaking story for a lot of people who've just kind of tried to jump into the market on this decline, which is obviously very problematic. But despite that, you know, I thought that the low was when it was down here in May. I just thought, well, it's either going to go to zero. It's like an option trade. It's like red or black at a casino. It's either going to go completely to zero or it's going to rally. And I remember in the crisis of 2008, when Lehman Brothers went to zero on the share price, it's for some reason the futures price was actually trading at a few cents. So I thought, well, maybe there'll be some kind of short-term recovery. It might not last, but it'd be worth a punt because everybody just completely written it off and said it had gone. So from a technical point of view, it has been interesting. I mean, I'm still assuming that it's going to go to zero. But from a price action point of view, it then suddenly a few weeks ago started to break out, and this is a really lovely little triangular pattern called a pennant that broke out to the upside. So that was the first move. Then it broke resistance. I'll take the auto off, so hopefully that will allow you to see it a bit better. And then we saw another triangular constriction, and then it pushed up again. So then I was thinking, well, wow, this looks like it's almost going to create a longer term base. This had created a short term base. So what is going on here? I mean, it's hit a high and it's now actually retracing. So it's coming back from this run. I don't know whether it's going to turn around again and go to the upside, but as long as it holds over this 0.00016 level, I think it's interesting. That was where the breakout started. You can see where it started here when it broke this resistance. So if it holds over that, then I think it's quite interesting. Now I know the community have taken over the project. I don't know anything else from a technical standpoint, i.e. technical for the project, as to what's going on here. So it's still highly speculative, highly speculative. But what I liked about it was the technicals when it started to create this rounding bottom and then accelerate to the upside. As I say, it's come off the boil and is now retracing a bit. But this is the sort of thing I would like to see some of the other coins doing. And I also thought it was kind of encouraging that something that was effectively regarded as a dead project is seeing some money going into it. So broadly speaking, if that can happen, that speculative money is going into something which is considered to be written off by many people, then perhaps that's a sign for the rest of the market that we might see some more risk on funds coming in to some of the other markets. But I don't know what you think about the fundamentals, but I found this chart to be one of the most interesting in the last few weeks. As I say, I didn't really want to talk that much about it before because I was a bit concerned that it was possibly one that we should keep on the back, that people just didn't want to hear about, as it were. Often the case, that's the best time to be looking at it, when everybody's sort of just doesn't want to see the market anymore and they're not interested. That's when the market turns. So it'd be a very contrary call to call it up when it was going up. But that's why I look at charts, because it gives you that kind of heads up that something interesting is going on.
Yeah. This one is an extremely interesting one. It hit highs over like $120, and I was cautioning people on it because everyone in YouTube and crypto was covering it, right? Oh my gosh, it's just going to keep going up for forever. And I was like, that nothing goes up for forever, and likely these are highs. Now, I took profits on it, not as much profits as I wanted to, because there's this staking withdrawal time, and I had my Terra position staked. But I had bought Terra when it was like $6, and I'd put a little bit of money into it, which had grown into a lot of money. And so it crashed, which is always the potential. And because of its crash, the mechanisms behind it, that you could convert its stablecoin UST into Terra, it actually brought the price of Terra like ridiculously low. that the fall was tremendous from over $100 to so many zeros in there. You lose count of how many zeros is in that number. I don't know what's caused this pump. I did see this come across the news. Terra blockchain co-founder is wanted in South Korea. Now, I kind of hate it when they do this. Now, if there's some real reason to prosecute him, I'm interested to hear it. What they say here is that Kwon is wanted for allegedly violating South Korea's Capital Markets Act, with prosecutors reportedly charging that their stablecoin UST and Luna should have been classified as an investment contract securities. In other words, they're now, after the crash, looking for an excuse to prosecute them to show that they're doing something right. The time to do this would have been when it was at $100, if that's really the reason why they're doing it. But when things crash, people want somebody to blame other than themselves, like it's somebody else's fault. Now, if he was behind it and he was manipulating things and doing illegal stuff, I am open to hearing that information, and it would change my view. I've heard some speculation that happened. I haven't seen evidence that is the case, though. And so I don't believe in prosecuting somebody because their idea failed. And their idea, which is an interesting idea that got a lot of people behind it, it did get broken, some people say, by Wall Street manipulation, broke it, and it came once their stablecoin of UST, which was supposed to be pegged to the dollar, once it broke below like 98 cents and then 96 cents, it started to free fall. And then people started converting their UST to Luna, which caused Luna's price collapse as well. And both collapsed tremendously. And there were investors that lost billions of dollars. There were some really big investors that had put a lot of money into this. And so they're not very happy. But I like that, it's not only the small guy that gets nailed when things go bad. So, but big guys have connections, and that might be what's behind this, is they really don't like to lose that kind of money, and they look for somebody to blame so they can say it was not their fault. So what's behind the Luna pump? I don't know. I'm just watching it, intrigued. What's interesting in crypto is sometimes even when a project dies, its token doesn't die, and speculation continues to happen on the token, even though there might not be active development going on behind it. So I've just seen that pattern with some projects where like the CEO was arrested and taken away, and yet their token continued to trade. And this was a project like 4 years ago, and I think their token continues to trade till today, obviously at a much, much lower price, but it still trades, and essentially it's dead, right?
Yeah, so I know it's a problematic one for a few reasons, but it's just I couldn't ignore the chart.
Yeah,
so,
isn't that?
So I had to show it. Yeah,
I appreciate you bringing that up so we could just look. I don't know fundamentally what drove that. Yeah, so I'm puzzled by that, but as well as puzzled and intrigued. Well, thank you, Paul, for joining us today, and hope the audience enjoyed it tremendously. I always enjoy what I learn from you, so thank you.
My pleasure. Great to be here. Thanks, guys.
Well, you already know that the crypto market still continues trading sideways, generally sometimes down. Maybe even there's some down ahead, but at some point it will flip around. Just know that good decisions made during these big pullbacks, they lead to life-changing ones as money comes back in the market. And that does always eventually happen. This wrap is for all of you to reinforce the principles that I share that make all the difference over time on higher returns.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit right before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic to dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong, cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes it time fly by, years going so fast. This game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.